thought that I would share with you a little bit of the process of what goes on when we start sort of developing stuff. So this is a total and utter experiment. And so the guys that are here filming today are going to be trying it. So more fool them if it's disgusting. But one of the products that doesn't get bought a lot from our shop is the lamb leg steaks. They get bought quite a lot if, you know, barbecue season, that sort of thing. But it's a totally and utterly underrated product because I don't think a lot of people know what to do apart from roasting lamb or firing these onto the barbecue. So one of the things that I find is really, really useful for James and I is actually just to have something that we can fire into the freezer. And so I've got out another one. This is my favourite little dish, my favourite little cooking pot. It's an enamel one. I think since I left the city and moved to the country, I feel this need to use Le Creuset and enamel. I don't know why, but I feel I just do. So we've got some bits and pieces of ingredients that, again, it's totally out the store cupboard. There's stuff that I've always got lying around. So what I'm going to do is just have a little bit of a play around. So the stuff that I've selected is obviously our lamb leg steaks, onion, some butter beans, some tinned cherry tomatoes. I love these because they create like these wee pockets of like sweetness and flavour when you're making something that just sort of bursts. Some passata to make a little bit more of a sauce. This is one that I've got which has actually got garlic and herbs already in it. And I've got that in the store cupboard all the time for things like soup and all of that sort of thing. And also I thought I'd jazz it up with a few more spices this time as opposed to herbs. So I've picked out some turmeric, some cumin, some coriander, and a little bit of paprika. So what I want to do is just start off by browning off my lamb. You don't need to chop it, I don't think, or anything like that. We'll just see how it goes. I love a sizzle. I swear one of the best things I ever did was get a sink put right next to the cooker. Brilliant for draining, brilliant for hand washing. Just going to get a really, really nice colour on this lamb. Again, I heated the dish up before I put the oil in. Again, means you use less oil. Oh yeah, and we've also got some of the red wine that we had left over from earlier from making the spaghetti, the bolognese sauce. So this lamb is lovely because it's like got a really lovely marbled texture. So the other thing that we often quite use is, I think this would be really, really good with a really underused meat as well. So we produce mutton as well. And I think that this would actually be really, really great. Because what we're going to do is we're just going to, once it's all ready, whack it in and slow cook it in the bottom of the Aga. This would probably be one of those things that I kind of like make or get started in the morning. And then it would be ready for tea time for James coming in. So when you're browning meat like this, don't overcrowd the pan. You're not going to get the lovely caramelization that you're going to get from the high heat on the meat. It's a waiting game. Quickly back in with another one before it sets the smoke alarm off. You are going to get like some caramelized bits that stick to the bottom of the pan, but don't worry about that. We're going to deal with that in a minute, I hope. So the idea whenever I'm like developing anything is sort of what can we do that is using our produce that we can cook up that makes the most out of the flavour of our produce in itself, but also is something that can be frozen. It's really important, we think, for that, especially for James and I at home when we're just at home on our own anyway. Because if we can make a batch of something, just is easier. Okay, so that's that all browned off. You can see that the meat is in no way cooked. It's going to cook further on in the process. So just in we go with some chopped onion. Start scraping the bottom of that dish. Just getting all those lovely caramelized bits up off the bottom and cook down that onion. So fresh veg that we've always got in our fridge. Courgette, peppers. I like colour in food. So we're just going to use, for this amount, half a courgette at the moment. Cut it into half moons. So we're just going to sweat the onions down. Sweating them down means that they don't take on any additional colour, so it gets done on sort of medium to low heat. And I'm going to shove in some courgette. Bit of pepper. Avoiding the seeds. Again, you'll see everything I do is like roughly chopped. And also anything I do, especially when I'm cooking in the springtime, you have to be ready to like pull it off the heat in case you have to run out, go and lamb something and then come back in. But, you know, sounds a bit awful saying that when you're cooking lamb, but, you know, it's a bit of a reality. Okay. So just got some lovely colours in there, actually. I love a bit of green and yellow. Just going to give that a quick little cook down. So we're doing this off a relatively sort of mild heat. You don't want to cook courgettes too fast. They'll get mushy and they won't really hold a brilliant shape. So next, what should we do next? I think that what we'll do is whack in some cherry tomatoes. You'll see that they're just tinned cherry tomatoes, just bring a lovely colour to it all. So I think what I'm going to do is make this like a one pot, like something that we can just pull out of the oven and eat. Something pretty simple. So we'll add in some butter beans. So I've drained these. So again, just tinned butter beans in with those. They give it a little bit of starch, a little bit more body. As always, some seasoning. So some salt. and some black pepper. I don't know if I'm going to put any sugar in this, even with the tomatoes, because I honestly don't know what it's going to taste like at the end with all of the herbs and with all the spices and stuff. So I'm just going to leave that. And also with the meat as well. So in we go. So this is a little bit dry really for me at the moment. I'm going to add in some passata. As I said, this has got garlic and herbs in it already. Just a really nice, easy one to use. Just enough to cover up all the veg. Remember, as the meat cooks down, it's going to produce its own juices, which is going to be lovely. Now I'm going to add in some spices. So, a little bit of turmeric. Don't get that on your fingers. They'll be yellow for ages. Some cumin. And some paprika. So this is smoked paprika. I love smoked paprika. It's kind of smelling a bit like a fajita. We don't have smell-o-vision, but it does. It smells a little bit like a fajita. So, lovely. Then all I'm going to do, put the lamb back in. Bit full, never mind. Because it's full, I'm going to cheat slightly because I don't want spilling juices all over my arga and the inside. So just a baking tray, lid on. And I'm going to put it in the bottom of the arga just to start with. And then we'll see how it goes. So the bottom of the arga probably has a temperature of around about 120 degrees C. Around about that. So that's kind of like, the majority of ovens will start at sort of like 80, 90, 100 type sort of thing. So it should be fine there. Well, it had a really lovely slow cook down in the bottom oven. And when I went to go and test it earlier, I just thought it could do with a wee punch of heat. So I've moved it up to the arga top oven and it should be just about done now. Ooh, yeah. Thank goodness for putting the tray under, as you can see. It's sort of come out, but let's see how this is looking. Ooh, lovely. So we've got a really, really lovely sort of braised lamb in here with the spiced tomatoes as well. So we'll just serve it up and then the guys can have another taste of this one and see what they think. So as you can tell, remember what I was saying earlier about the tomatoes and things, you can see here that the tinned tomatoes are actually effectively just tomatoes. So what else would they be? Like literally, what are you talking about? It's been a long day. So you've got some lovely, almost soup-like consistency here with the butter beans, the courgette, tomatoes. So what I'm going to do is just, before I give this to the boys, just have a quick taste of it for seasoning. Needs a bit of salt. I'm a perpetual under-seasoner. And I always think that people can add seasoning, but you can't necessarily take it away if you overdo it. So, no double dipping. That is actually really good. You're just getting the hints of those spices that I put in earlier. It adds in a little bit more heat. Not heat as in terms of spicy or anything, but a wee bit more depth of just more, I would suspect, never been to Morocco, but more towards that sort of leaning in terms of flavouring. So, come on then, boys, dig in. Unfortunately, we do have a vegetarian with us. Not that that's an unfortunate thing to be, but it means that he can't have this one. Dig in. And this is what James is having for tea.